ask one more question along the same lines as the chairman's, and that is the association with the cleric, the Yemeni cleric who used to be operating out of Maryland. After the Fort Hood incident, it would seem that there would be a deep looking into everything that might be associated or connected with that particular cleric. And so my question is, why wouldn't the Mr. Abdul Muttalib and his association with that same cleric have been enough to get him on the database, to at least have a big yellow flag, if not a red one?
Absolutely, Senator. To begin, immediately after Fort Hood, and this is continuing, we have in fact engaged an interagency CIA, FBI, National Security Agency, NCTC scrub of all of Anwar al-Awlaki, looking at his various contacts to determine who poses a threat.
And then would those people that do have tentacles, that he has tentacles to, now be put on watch lists? I mean, can we be assured of that?
Those individuals, it depends. It depends on the nature of those communications. In some cases, under the existing standards, were someone to send, communicate in a way which was completely innocent, it might not put that person on the no-fly list. It might put that person on a different layer of the list. And of course, the list itself and being placed on that list cannot be based purely on protected First Amendment activity. So there may be some issues there. With respect to Mr. Abdul Muttalib.
Just ask you one thing more, though. Okay, you had the Yemeni connection, and then you had the man's father who raised a flag of some kind. Would that, do you have the capability to merge that kind of information and raise the level on someone like that?
Absolutely, Senator. And in fact, the failure here and the failure on our part and elsewhere was not making that connection. It was not making that connection between what the father came in and said and other sources of intelligence. Now, some of those sources of intelligence weren't flagged in a way that made it more likely that that intelligence would be connected. So there were some failings there, but also the basic act of seeing all that intelligence and piecing it together is what we did not do. But undoubtedly, had it been, he could have been in a higher level of watch.
Okay, let me ask you this, because it goes back to the first thing that the chairman said in his opening statement. Do we have the tools now to communicate completely and effectively without bureaucratic mumbo-jumbo between intelligence sources and security forces on the ground, so that you can put those kinds of different levels of an awareness together to raise it to a substantial awareness level?
Senator, this is going to be hard to believe, but probably the single best example where we go from the most classified sensitive intelligence down to the operator in the field, and this is true even after 1225, is in fact the watch list. The problem here was not that that information did not flow, because it can flow quite easily to the police officer in the street, to the visa officer, to the Customs and Border Protection officer. The problem is we didn't have the right derogatory information associated with that record. So we hadn't connected the intelligence to raise the flag, but the information could have flowed quite easily. But a second piece of your question is, do we have the systems in place that make it easy to connect those pieces of data in the first instance? And the answer is yes in some places and not nearly enough so in others. Some agencies are far ahead of others, and we still have clearly some systems which are so rudimentary and basic that they're not doing a good job of that. For example, the State Department's visa system, where when they mistype one letter in the name, his visa does not come up. I consider that a significant weakness in the technological system that enables effective information sharing.
Okay, I guess my final question, to try to just get to the nugget, is do you have all of the authority to do what needs to be done? And I'm not even saying this is easy, because I know if a father comes in and says, I think my son is someone you should watch, maybe that in itself, by itself, isn't enough. But then you have the Yemeni cleric, and maybe that wasn't quite enough to also matter. But together, you got to be able to say,
Absolutely.
okay, put this together is really big. So do you have the authority, and Madam Secretary, do you all have the authority to get to the heart of this and not have all these constraints and different bureaucracies and different rules and all of the confusion that seems to maybe exist sometimes?
Senator, I'll try to be very brief. I think the basic system structure works, but there are 4 areas which undoubtedly we need to focus. One is technology. The technology is not as advanced as it needs to be to connect all of these pieces. Second, in terms of authorities, to make sure that people are following up in the way they need to follow up, those authorities, frankly, to the National Counterterrorism Center were purposefully vague, and we are now working with the White House through the President's direction to make sure there is accountability. Third, we simply need the people to do it, because you can have the best Google-like tool in the world. You need the people to work that watch list and look at that information. And fourth, I think— Are you saying we don't have enough people on the job? Is that— I think absolutely, as I tried to make clear, we did not have enough people to put on this Yemen problem, and we did not shift people away from other problems quickly enough. And now what we've been directed by the President to do, I think there will be a resource tail to make sure you can pursue these minute leads in a way that you can have greater confidence that they will be tracked down and will be connected exactly the way you and the American people expect and deserve.
Senator, what I would add to that is, again, the international dimension of this is so very important. You know, he traversed 2 international airports, Lagos and Amsterdam. Every airport, not every airport in the world operates at the same level of security standards. We also need, I think, quite frankly, to work more closely on the international scale in terms of sharing information about individuals, who's had a visa revoked and why, for example. And so that is part and parcel of the corrective action that we are taking.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is